It was a rainy night when Claire, a young woman living in a small town, decided to visit an old, mysterious bookstore she had heard about from a friend. The shop was tucked away on the outskirts of the town, hidden behind overgrown vines and a thick fog that never seemed to lift. The shop was known for selling rare and unusual books, but there was one particular book Claire was after: the Book of Shadows. A book that supposedly contained knowledge of ancient and forbidden rituals, including the dark art of black magic. Inside, the store smelled of dust, old parchment, and something else. Something metallic, like iron. The shelves were crammed with leather-bound books that seemed to have been untouched for decades. The old man who ran the store had a peculiar look about him, his eyes sunken deep into his face, as though he hadn't slept in years. He greeted Claire with a faint, unsettling smile, but there was a coldness in his gaze that made her uneasy. Claire explained that she was looking for the Book of Shadows. The man hesitated for a moment, as though weighing something in his mind. "It's not a book you should want to read," he said in a hushed tone. "It brings misfortune." But Claire was insistent. She had heard rumors of the book's power, how it could grant someone unimaginable abilities or even bring back the dead. It was the temptation of power that drew her in. The man finally nodded and led her to a dark corner of the shop, where the book lay on a dusty shelf, hidden from sight. The book was old. Its cover was made of cracked, dark leather, and it felt unusually heavy in her hands. As she opened it, the pages seemed to come alive, swirling with symbols she couldn't understand. But there was one page that caught her attention. It was a ritual that claimed to offer the power to summon spirits and control them. Claire, curious and desperate to prove herself, decided to try it. That night, Claire followed the instructions carefully. She set up candles in a circle, drew strange symbols on the floor with salt, and chanted the incantation aloud, as the book instructed. She felt a strange chill in the room, but she dismissed it as the wind outside. As she reached the final words of the incantation, the air seemed to thicken and the candles flickered violently. Suddenly, the room went cold. Claire felt a presence in the room, a darkness that pressed against her chest, making it hard to breathe. The shadows in the corners of the room twisted, and a low whisper echoed through the air. It wasn't in a language she recognized, but it was clear. It was something ancient, something evil. A figure began to materialize in the center of the circle. It was tall, cloaked in black, its face obscured by shadows. Claire tried to scream, but no sound came out. She could feel the weight of its gaze upon her, cold and piercing, like it was staring into her very soul. The figure raised its hand, and Claire's body froze, as if invisible chains had bound her. The voice, now clearer, spoke directly into her mind. "You summoned me, child. Now you belong to me." The lights in the room went out completely, plunging her into darkness. She felt a cold hand grip her arm, pulling her towards the figure. Claire struggled, but she couldn't move. She could hear whispers all around her, taunting her, as if the shadows themselves were alive. The figure leaned in, and Claire felt an icy breath against her ear. "Your soul is mine." With a surge of panic, Claire managed to break free, stumbling backward out of the circle. As she fell to the ground, the figure vanished, but the room remained cold, the oppressive presence still lingering in the air. Claire scrambled to her feet and ran out of the house, not daring to look back. The next day, Claire felt different, drained, as if something had been taken from her. She went back to the bookstore, hoping to find answers. The old man looked at her with pity in his eyes. "You shouldn't have done it," he said softly. "The ritual, it doesn't just summon spirits. It takes something from you. The darkness you invoked will follow you forever." Claire tried to leave the store, but as she reached the door, she felt a cold hand on her shoulder. She turned, but there was no one there. The air grew thick again, the shadows stretching toward her. From that day on, Claire was never the same. Her nights were filled with whispers, shadows that moved on their own, and an overwhelming sense of dread. Every mirror she looked into showed a faint, shadowy figure standing just behind her, watching her every move. She could never escape the darkness she had summoned. As for the Book of Shadows, it was never found again. The bookstore had vanished overnight, leaving no trace behind. But the whispers continued. faint but always there, reminding Claire that some knowledge is better left untouched.